Which kind of gets us to our next point, right? In terms of
Yeah,
weaponizing the LTIR.
that is, I think, a perfect transition into getting into the LTIR. So I was reading an article, and it was saying that the Islanders could get up to $16.75 million in cap space by using LTIR if they add Romanov, Palmieri, Engvall's already there, and Semyon Varlamov.
I forgot about Engvall and Varley.
Right?
Yeah. Engvall's got 3 million there. You've got Varley that's 275, and yeah, like we know Romanov is probably done for the year, right? They said 4 to 6 months, right?
I thought it was 6.
Okay, which is that's basically it, and assuming we're not making the playoffs, so that's another 625. And then yeah, Kyle is done for the year, definitely. That's 475 on the cap. Like just those two last guys is over $10 million.
Yeah, Romanov was 5 to 6 months.
Right.
So 5 months would put that at the end of April, which is through the regular season, right? If they made the playoffs, maybe they could come up with the scenario where he's coming back for the playoffs. But an ACL, Kyle Palmieri is not going to be ready for the playoffs on an ACL.
No, exactly. So there's a ton of room there that they could use to bring in contracts, either just to hold some monies, or just bring in players. Like we'll take this guy for the last couple of months, so you can make room and make your big run or whatever, and we'll take a second. Heck, we'll take a first, right? Like depending on who the player is. I remember the Toronto Maple Leafs traded Patrick Marleau's contract, and they sent a first along with it. That was a while ago, but man, like at this point, will a team like the Vegas Golden Knights, who are $4 million over the cap, not want to make a move at the deadline? Probably.
Yeah, maybe they would.
Right. And can we take on like that's a big contract. I'm trying to find like someone who's Jeremy Lauzon for $2 million he's on a 1-year deal for $2 million. Can we not take that? Is he a righty? No, he's a lefty. Can we not take him for a couple of months? See if he works out. Maybe not. Whatever.
That's different than I want to make it clear. That's very different than the buying we talked about in the first segment, because this is you would get assets along with the player, right? Or if it's there's been teams or trades where multiple teams are involved to make the money work, and maybe the Islanders could be a part of one of those packages as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about using that cap space to help other teams do what they're trying to do, and then bring in extra assets to enable that. It's what assets are you going to be able to get for them? I think for us is it doesn't matter. If you're getting thirds and fourths, who cares? It's thirds and fourths you didn't have before. And you can package those together to get a second. And then a second is worth a whole lot more than the third and fourth. And you could do shit with that you weren't able to do beforehand is the entire point.
Right. And that's the year, or this is the kind of year rather, where you would want to do that, right? Because you had a draft with 3 first-round picks. You have another one coming up with 2. You could really set yourself up where the 2026 draft and offseason is really like your launch into turning the corner, right? Like, because last year's offseason, I felt like was the first year of starting the reset. Next offseason coming up could be that point where you're like, all right, let's add an additional first round pick. Maybe we're trading the Colorado pick for a young defenseman, and you just added as many more assets as you can, and like, all right, let's try to start opening this window again.
Exactly. And like there's a ton of teams out there that don't have a lot of cap space. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 teams have about $2 million worth of cap space. Now, not all of them are going to make the playoffs. Like the Boston Bruins probably aren't going to do it. But you still have Vegas, Florida, Edmonton, Toronto in there. I understand Edmonton and Toronto aren't in a playoff spot, but we expect them to be there at some point.
But they're in a spot where it's like they kind of are forced to go for it, right? You can't be like, hey, we have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. We're actually going to just sell off some pieces here. No, they're going to be the team that's trying to finagle some roster decisions to push towards a playoff spot.
Exactly. And so they're going to be wanting to move off some of these contracts. Like Edmonton has $160,000 worth of cap space. They have Kapanen and Noah Phillip on LTIR, but they are just over $2 million, $2.075 million combined in LTIR space. That's just not enough. And I think they're using that. No, they're not using it just yet, but still, they're going to want to move some pieces. Like, can we take Adam Henrique at $3 million?
That was the exact player that I was going to reference. Not that he's had a great year. He only has 7 points so far this year, but like he's what, $3 million, and you could probably get, because that's a cap dump. Think about all the different cap dumps the Islanders had to make, and I know the league was a little in a different spot when they did it, but they traded a second round pick and to free up Andrew Ladd. They traded a second round pick to free up Josh Bailey. It was a long in the future second round pick, but a second round pick still a second round pick, Mitch.
Yeah, and like if they're in the running for someone like Jean-Gabriel Pageau, like, okay, well, we'll take back that $3 million to help you with the cap, but like that increases the price. Now you're definitely getting a first round pick for Jean-Gabriel, although they don't have a first rounder in 2026. But if you get a second first rounder in 2027, then you've got multiple first round picks over 3 years, and you don't even need those.
No, exactly. And that would be interesting, right? Like if it was a second this year and a first next year and taking on Adam Henrique, something like that.
Right, exactly. And these aren't like scenarios we want to see happen. These are just things that we're thinking off the cuff.
No, and talking through.
Exactly. But there are possibilities out there that we are going to be able to utilize, if not even just like a third party in a trade, right? Like we've seen that happen so many times where other teams who are in the playoff hunt, like Carolina's done it multiple times, where they're just facilitating a trade. Like, yo, you need us to take 25% of a contract, done. Is that a third round pick? Deal. We could be that team.
Yeah, and just stockpile additional picks, and we're not saying that you have to stick and pick at all those spots, but you can move around the draft board. You can move picks for players, right? Like there's so much you could do at that point. I mean, we've talked about the Islanders needing to revamp the fourth line. You could trade mid-round picks for, good, cheap and good fourth line options.
Absolutely, man. So like it'll be interesting to see what Mathieu Darche does as GM at a trade deadline within the confines and the context of where the New York Islanders are, whether that's in the playoff picture or not. But like, do we weaponize our cap space for once? Because we've asked Lou Lamoriello to do that for years, and not once has he done it. We'll see if we can do it this time.
Yep. It's going to be interesting, right? Because we saw his first off season. Obviously had the luxury of having the number 1 overall pick and being able to draft Matthew Schaefer, but we haven't seen him act at the trade deadline. And I don't know if it's fair to point to like Tampa Bay, where he came from, because they were in a very different spot. They were going for it pretty much every single year that he was with them.